been a lot of news recently about the Knicks' two key free agents in OG Anunoby and Isaiah Hartenstein since Michael A. Scotto, Stefan Bondy, and Ian Begley sat down and talked about it, and we're going to break it down. So what's up, guys? Welcome back to Knicks Digest. It's Chris here, and we're going to jump right into the video as we always do. We're starting with OG because we have a massive OG Anunoby contract update from our guys who were just breaking down some stories, talking about OG, talking about his worth, and honestly, what we're seeing, it's a mix of the same stuff and also just a further detail into what is going to happen this free agency time. And the deal with OG Anunoby is it appears that he will be staying with the New York Knicks where he belongs, but there are teams with interest that the Knicks are going to have to fight off to a degree. So let's go ahead and break all this stuff right down. And starting out, let's just take a look at a quote from Stefan Bondy, who said, if Paul George doesn't go to Philadelphia or back to OKC, those two teams will have money to spend and they'll look to get somebody. OG Anunoby is an attractive piece to bring in, but it depends on the market, and he'd be very surprised if the Knicks didn't bring OG Anunoby back one way or another. And then also, if we continue, according to Ian Begley, the Knicks are committed to having OG long-term, and he said that if he had to guess, there would be some injury protections in that deal or some stipulation with games played. Now, all of this is a great sign. Obviously, the 76ers and Thunder will have some interest in OG Anunoby, but their prime focus is in Paul George. Both teams want more shot creation. Paul George gives that more than OG Anunoby does. OG is a good fallback option, and also if you're the 76ers, you think, hey, let me screw with the Knicks and make them pay OG Anunoby more money because they beat us in the playoffs. And if they don't want to, then we steal a guy who the Knicks would not have won that series if they didn't have. So either way, it's a win-win for us. Now, I think the 76ers will throw OG an offer. I think the Thunder will throw OG an offer. I also think the Knicks are going to keep OG, considering Sam Rose is his agent, considering the closeness between this CAA team. I'm not too concerned that OG is going to leave the Knicks at all. My bigger concern comes at what price OG is going to stay at. And Begley did mention there's going to be some stipulations in that deal when it comes to games played. Everything OG Anunoby does leads to winning, except for the fact that he gets a bunch of strange injuries. When the Knicks acquired OG, I have a feeling they knew about that elbow injury, considering with Sam Rose being his agent and all that. I assume Leon knew and didn't care and was like, it'll be fine, he'll be ready for the playoffs. Maybe it got him to get a better deal than what the Raptors were looking for, because it was saying the Raptors wanted a deal similar to Donovan Mitchell for OG Anunoby. Now, obviously, that's one, ridiculous, and two, was never really going to happen. But clearly, it was for a lesser deal, and I'm not trying to bash RJ or IQ. They didn't fit with the Knicks in a pure basketball standpoint. I'm happy they're on the Raptors. They're both doing their thing out there. So I'm glad for them, but clearly it's not the massive deal that the Raptors were talking about as the only way they would trade OG Anunoby, and maybe that's why. But also, Ben Rogers from Raptors Digest, who y'all probably know, said that that's the one thing with OG. As great as he is, he does get strange injuries, and it's very annoying. Now, we've seen OG get injured, and we've seen it impact the Knicks multiple times already. Within half of a season, we've seen that happen. We saw it happen with the elbow, and the Knicks stopped playing as well. And then we saw it happen in the playoffs when he hurt his hamstring. It's the one reason why the Knicks didn't go to the Eastern Conference Finals. Had OG been fully healthy, the Knicks would have given the Celtics a run for their money. Had the Knicks been fully healthy, they probably would have won the NBA Finals this year. So when you look at things, this is a great Knicks team. They're obviously not going to try to lose a massive piece like Anunoby. No matter what the price is, they're probably going to bite. The idea is that there will most likely be some sort of incentives to games played, and I think that's good for the Knicks. I think they should absolutely do that. But if you guys just go ahead and take a look right here, something Michael A. Scotto mentioned is that the league-wide exception is that the Knicks bring him back. The question is for how much, and as we already saw, Begley mentioned they're committed to having him here, and Bondy said he'd be shocked if they didn't bring OG back, but it does definitely include some incentives being attached to games played. Now also, if we continue, Bobby Marks talked a lot about OG Anunoby. He talked about all the top 20 free agents that Kevin Pelton ranked and talked about the deals he would offer as a former assistant GM for the Brooklyn Nets. And he said 4 years, $145 million. That last season is guaranteed if OG receives or reaches that games played criteria. And mentions that the Knicks and the 76ers are the best fit for OG Anunoby. Now, I do think OG's going to stay, as I said. I'm 99.9% sure the Knicks will have OG Anunoby next season. But there is the guy who I'm way less convinced that will be a Knick next year, and that is none other than the Stein himself, Isaiah Hartenstein, who's also now a dad, so congrats to Hartenstein for that. But there's a real chance that Isaiah Hartenstein gets priced right out of New York and is gone this summer. Now, for a while, I've thought Hartenstein was a lock to stay with the Knicks. I do not think it's a lock anymore. I'd still say, if you made me bet on it, I would bet Hartenstein sticks around. I think there's a lot of smoke and mirrors where it comes to, the Thunder are going to offer him $30 million. No, they're not. I'd be shocked if a team offered him over 20, if I'm being real. Because Hartenstein's the starting center in the NBA. I know that. But I don't really think that the Thunder are going to start playing Chet at the 4. I just don't see it. I think they like him at the 5. I think they like the fact that Shea is the only guy attacking the paint on their team. Yeah, there's a rebounding problem. You can pay someone far less than Isaiah Hartenstein, such as Andre Drummond, to do the same thing, rebound the ball, except Drummond's a better rebounder than Hartenstein. Honestly, he is. I know Hartenstein's a great rebounder. Drummond's a better rebounder. He costs less. I do not think the Thunder, who have Sam Presti, a phenomenal GM, are going to think, let's mess with our money by signing a guy who will probably spend most of his time with the Knicks as a backup center, or with the Thunder as a backup center. That doesn't make sense. Why would they not go for a cheaper option? It just doesn't add up to me. There's so many guys that you could add who won't give the same production as Hartenstein, who's the best center in free agency, but will give you enough when you're mainly just looking for rebounding. They're not in need of Hartenstein's rim protection or high post playmaking. Chet can do that. They're looking for rebounding. I don't see why they would spend all that money. Now, obviously, let's take a look at what the rest of the gang says, because, well, they're more tapped in than me, unfortunately, which, kind of sucks for me. But before we do that, we're going to look at OG Anunoby's stats, because I just realized I forgot to pull them up. OG's putting up 15 points with 4 rebounds and 2 assists. Guy's shooting 38% from 3. We need him back, but we also need the other man himself, Isaiah Hartenstein, and this just went away. There it is. We need this guy back. We need these 8 points. We need these 8 rebounds, that high post playmaking leading to 2.5 assists per game with 2.3 stocks per game, shooting 64% from the field. Guys, we need this guy back. I think he is so valuable to this New York Knicks team. I do not see a reason why the Knicks would not try to bring Hartenstein back. Obviously, they're going to try to pay him as much as humanly possible. The question is how much that is going to be. Now, I do think they will end up bringing Hartenstein back, but it's not going to be for cheap. They are going to have to pay Hartenstein a lot of money. Now, according to Michael A. Scotto, he talked to 2 general managers who said that they think the Knicks are going to offer Hartenstein the full 4 years and $72 million available, and they think the Knicks can't lose him in free agency because he's become too valuable to the team. And I agree, because I think Mitch is still the better center, don't get me wrong. I think Hartenstein, well, he's just on the court, and Mitch usually, unfortunately, is not. Mitch is one of the most injury-prone players in the NBA, and Hartenstein's not, and he fits with the team very well. Him and Brunson have an excellent rapport, and it makes me think that Hartenstein probably wants to stay with the Knicks, but if he gets offered a massive bag, he's going to take it, and honestly, rightfully so. You can't really hate the guy for doing that. Now, another guy who was mentioned by Bobby Marks is Hartenstein, and he said that he would offer him 2 years and $50 million, where the best fits are New York, OKC, and Detroit. Now, I don't know if you guys know how to do math when it comes to per-year contracts, but that leads to $25 million per year, 50 divided by 2. Yeah, I passed 4th grade math, barely, if I'm being honest. Maybe that's why I'm a YouTuber now. But, look, Hartenstein, he could get paid that. And if he does, then he's not going to be on the New York Knicks next year. Then he'll be on the Thunder. That is the one thing the Thunder could offer him, that short-term deal, and then maybe the Knicks would come hunting around 2 years later. But they're not going to have any rights. It's going to be harder to pay him, and they're probably never going to get him back. So hopefully the Thunder don't do that. I really, again, don't think there's a point in them doing that. I don't think there's a point in any team offering him that much money, unless there's a team that has the money that really needs a starting center. that is trying to contend right now. And when you look at the Magic, they have 6 starting centers. When you look at the 76ers, they have Embiid. The Thunder have Chet, who they like at the 5. The Pistons are terrible and have only centers. The Jazz, their one consistent position that's not going anywhere is Walker Kessler, a center. I think the Knicks are fine, but there is a real world where they lose Isaiah Hartenstein, and I really wish that didn't rhyme. Oh, wow, all of that did. Guys, yeah, like, subscribe, comment. I just rhymed too much. I got to get the hell out of here. Have a great day. Go Knicks. I'll see you in the comments.